Hello, everyone, and welcome to 100 The Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host today, Logan Landers, and today we're doing a special 2022 AFC South preview. So if you enjoy the video or this episode of the podcast, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We go live each and every single week on Facebook and on YouTube. Check us out on Instagram as well for a little bit of early access. You can see some clips as well as also now full-length videos over there. And our LinkedIn page, if you want to connect with us on a professional level, you can see us over there. Of course, our podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever it is you enjoy listening to podcasts, pretty much every single day. Over 1,000 episodes over there and well over 1,000 plus on Facebook and on YouTube. We thank you once again for all the continued support. Well, let's get into it. First off, let me introduce my co-host today. It's Monday, so you already know it is a Madman Mancini Monday. Welcome to the show once again, Mark Mancini. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I love this show, the show that's sweeping the country, Monday Madness, the ATL, the Olive Branch, Jeremiah, and you gave me, man, I don't miss this for the world.
Hey, it's always a pleasure having you on talking some football. And let's get into this, Mark. So we are now 4 weeks into the season, coming into week 5. Let's talk about how we think the AFC South is going to shake out from here on out. Let's start off with these Houston Texans up top. How do you think they're going to do the rest of the year?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. When you think of Houston football, I'm not talking about the Houston Cougars. I'm talking about the Houston Oilers with Bum Phillips, Stan Pastorini, Earl Campbell, Billy White Shoes Johnson. They hightailed it to Tennessee. They gave the Texans to us. And it was some great times back then. You had Schaub, the quarterback. You had J.J. Watt, Javon Clowney. And boy, how the mighty have fallen. Now Deshaun Watson is out of there. It's a patchwork type of team that's trying to compete. They got railroaded by the Chargers yesterday. 0-3-1. Long times coming in Houston. This team is not going anywhere, and they don't seem to do anything right. I mean, falling short by 10 to the Chargers is one thing, but they're just trying to put the pieces together. This is a makeshift team. Give bags with the admission in Houston because, man, oh, man, I don't know what's going to happen with this franchise. I know they'll probably have a sellout when Deshaun Watson gets reinstated and they come back with the Cleveland Browns to play the Houston Texans there later on in the year. But other than that, man, oh, man. Regress.
Yeah, not the prettiest start to the season for the Texans. Like I said, you mentioned their record. And like I said, they might be at the bottom of the AFC South, Mark, but I'm sure, if I had to guess, they're probably up top in terms of beer sales per game, just with how the team's been playing so far. I mean, Davis Mills, like I said, he's had some good moments. Is he really the franchise quarterback? I'm not too sure yet. I will say, though, I do like Pierce, though, the running back, Damian Pierce. He has some good potential to him coming out of Florida, I believe. So he's something to look out for. But like you mentioned, man, this is a super young team. A lot of young guys, a lot of just kind of unproven, unknown talent. And like I said, I just don't see them really escaping this hole they're in right now. Probably going to be a top 5 pick at least this upcoming 2023 draft.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They gotta get, they gotta change the culture there in Houston. That's the big thing. I mean, it's sometimes people look at results. I don't look at results as much as I look at progress. And progress is good. You got to get some young guys in there, cultivate them, sign them, get some long-term deals, and the Texans can be right there. But the way they've handled this franchise the last few years, it's downtrodden and nowhere to go but up. And you got to look at ownership on this deal.
Yeah, you really do. And this is if you look up the word rebuild in the dictionary, this is the picture you'll see right there of just the Houston Texans logo. All right, let's keep it moving, Mark. Let's move on to these Indianapolis Colts currently sitting at 1-2-1 on the year. Is Matt Ryan and company going to be able to shake out of this, or how do you think they're going to fare?
Well, Matt Ryan, what a legacy built down in the ATL. You're down there and everything. I don't know. This is a blame game from the get-go. Last year, the Colts only needed one victory. They had to go to Jacksonville. They couldn't do that. They threw Carson Wentz under the bus. When you looked at the season last year, they struggled, and they put together a streak, and they couldn't win one game. I think the blame game's got to go on Frank Wright here. I mean, they got a good running attack. The offensive line's here. I don't know. it's kind of a head scratcher in Indianapolis. Far cry from Peyton Manning, far cry from Jim Harbaugh. Man, oh man, I don't know what to make out of this team. They're a little bit better than the Houston Texans, not by much, but the division's wide open. But I don't know, man. Indianapolis has got to really find themselves. But I got them second in this division.
Yeah, Indianapolis is kind of a tricky situation. I thought they'd come out a little bit stronger than this. Matt Ryan, like I say, thrown for over 1,000 yards so far in 4 games. 66% completion percentage, not too bad. But what kind of trips me up, Mark, he's got 5 touchdowns, but he's got 5 interceptions. And also, he's been sacked 15 times on the year, so the offensive line isn't doing much for him. He's been sacked the 4th most in the NFL so far this season. And Matt Ryan ain't the youngest, right? He those legs aren't the spryest. He's not able to move around the pocket. So you have to have a good offensive line if you want him to do what he's been able to do his whole career, which is be a gunslinger. So they got to figure out that O-line so Matt Ryan just can't keep getting sacked so much. And also, too, I think one of the biggest disappointments for this team, as well as a lot of fantasy football owners, is Jonathan Taylor. In 4 games, he's only ran for 328 yards, only a 4.0 average. And, a guy who everyone pegs to be the number 1 running back in the league hasn't shown it so far. Only 1 touchdown on the year and just has not been able to get in a groove yet so far. Hopefully he can bust out of that slump because I think he's got the good potential to. He might just be a little bit stumbling out the gate. As for the receiving core, like I said, I like Michael Pittman. He's looked good, and also Alec Pierce is another one. But like I said, a lot of just kind of younger guys on that receiving core. No true, real number 1 for the Colts right now. And as for the defense, like I said, they got some good players over there, but it's just not been able to work so far on the season for this Colts team.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor, no Edgerrin James quite yet.
Yeah.
But, they definitely missed that. That's been a disappointment. And when you look at Matt Ryan, you got to keep him in the pocket and protect him. That offensive line has been collapsing at times, and that's going to hurry up his passes and everything. And when you look at the Colts, man, they're just treading water, to say the least. Mm-hmm. They got a big game coming up Thursday in Denver. We'll see. That's going to be a make or break. Usually you see some teams shake it between 5 and 7. So we're past the quarters, mark of this thing come Thursday. So we'll find out what the Colts are made out of.
Yeah, and if you want to see our prediction for that Thursday night game with Colts and Broncos, myself and Jeremiah just did that earlier this morning. So go check it out anywhere you listen to our show or watch it, and you can see what I think the final score is going to be and most importantly, who's going to get the win in that one. But, Mark, let's keep it moving here. Let's move on to the team who's tied for first right now, sitting at 500, 2-2 on the year, with Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Jaguars, led, of course, by Sunshine, Trevor Lawrence.
Well, this is the kid I like, man. I liked him at Clemson. Big kid, man. Can see the defenses. He took his struggles last year, the Urban Meyer saga, moved on, and you saw what Jacksonville did. They went into the Chargers last week. I thought they'd go into Philly. They took a 14-0 lead in Philly. Kind of, fell into that crowd, the rain, everything, the trenches. The Eagles pressured them and stuff. But you know what? I like the direction the Jaguars are going. Doug Peterson has these guys believing in themselves. Back-to-back number 1 picks. Jacksonville's going to be a tough team to contend with down the stretch here.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And looking at this Jacksonville team, Trevor Lawrence has been very good so far this season. Compared to last year, his rookie year, we know it wasn't the prettiest. He's thrown 8 touchdowns already this year, only 2 interceptions compared to his 12 touchdowns and 17 interceptions last year. You can tell he's been working. His completion percentage is about 5 to 6 points better as well. He's throwing the ball for a little bit longer with those brand new receivers they brought in. The running game, right, the 2-headed monster in the making with Robinson and with ETN combining for for around 400 yards. So they got that to work with. Of course, feels like the 50 new receivers they brought in with Christian Kirk, who's been looking really good, over 300 yards, Zay Jones as well. And the defense has been looking really good too. Of course, Trayvon Walker, the number 1 overall pick, he's been doing his thing. And Jacksonville's been looking so far so good this year, kind of a surprise to myself, who, like I said, this is a young team, and they've looked pretty good. Like I said, tough loss against Philly, but considering they only lost to about 8 points, that's not too bad, I think.
Yeah, not only that, when you look at Trevor Lawrence, best quarterback in the division, they're only going to get better. They have a lot of draft picks. They got an owner with deep pockets. And, they've been building that fan base even in London, playing there once a year. It's like a home game away from home. So I like the direction the Jags are going. And you know what? I think this team can get back to the days of Bortles and Fournette, Brunell and those guys, Coughlin. It's going to be a great time for the next few years in Jacksonville watching this team develop.
Yeah, and we'll see what they can do. Like I said, they face the Colts in 2 weeks, a team who they shut out, much to a shock to everyone in week 2. So we'll see if Indy can get their revenge or if they can keep that train rolling. But so far, Jacksonville's looking very good so far this season.
No doubt about it.
No doubt. Let's move on to our last team, Mark, the Tennessee Titans. The other team right there, tied for first at 2-2, led by the king, Derrick Henry. How do you think Tennessee is going to do the rest of the year?
Well, I'm not worried about Derrick Henry. He reminds me of Earl Campbell, big slash running back, hard to bring down. Defense is going to kind of boatload him to take him down and gang tackle him. But the real question is Ryan Tannehill. He seems to find a home here more so than Miami, but I don't know if he's the guy that really, lead him to the promised land here. And Mike Vrabel has been outcoached in more ways than one. You saw the playoffs last year. Cincinnati came back in their yard and knocked them out. And Tennessee's always sitting at the top of, seedings in the playoffs, either 1 or 2. But man, oh man, when it comes playoff time, where is this team? Far cry from the days when they played the Rams in the Super Bowl. So I don't know. The jury's locked on this team. I think they're at the crossroads. We'll find out. They brought in some, great defensive players there to neutralize some of these, teams playing them. But other than that, I don't know what you can get with the Tennessee Titans. I got them third in this division.
Yeah, and so far, Tannehill hasn't looked the sharpest this year. 5 touchdowns, 3 picks, only sacked about 7 times. Like I said, good completion percentage, thrown for close to 800 yards. But I mean, it's kind of what you expect out of him, right? Not all-star play, not MVP level play, but also not a terrible quarterback. Just kind of right there in the middle. And of course, you expect Derrick Henry, who's ran for over 300 yards so far, kind of on the same par as Jonathan Taylor, right? Kind of a slow start. Only 3 touchdowns on the year for about a 4.0 average. But what really I think now is going to hurt this team is the receiving core. We know that Treylon Burke got hurt the other day. We're not sure the extent of his injury at the moment, but it doesn't look good. So that's really going to hurt him because he's coming off, he's starting off the year really strong as that number 2 receiver behind Robert Woods. But I mean, honestly, beside that, there's not too many big weapons on this team outside of, like I said, Burks was kind of one in the making. I like Woods. Henry is obviously the go-to guy, but who's Tannehill going to throw to now? I mean, you lost a big guy.
Well, not only that, and if you get those defenses that can shut the run down, it puts more pressure on Henry. Then you got to open up your passing attack, and that's where we find out what Tannehill can really do. That's going to be the key. When they start to neutralize Henry, we'll find out, how fast this offense can do something. But Vrabel, started out strong in Tennessee, but, the last couple seasons, man, the jury's out on him. And when I look at Belichick disciples, he's came ahead of the curve here. But some of these guys don't fare well. Look at McDaniel, look at Patricia. Some of these guys, when they leave Belichick, they end up going back to Belichick years down the road.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's the thing now. I think that defense is really going to have to step up for the rest of the remainder of the season. If they're going to want to continue, if Derrick Henry doesn't get the hot start that we all thought, we'll see how Tannehill progresses the rest of the year. But Mark, let's give your final thoughts, man. What are your predictions for how the AFC South is going to shake out the remainder of the 2022 season, sir?
Well, I like the Jags. I think what Peterson's done there is get these guys to believe in themselves, and that means a lot. They're playing on house money. Nobody expected them to do anything. So they're rolling with, free money to play with in the casino. I got the Colts to come in right behind them. I think the Colts, can figure it out. But, their key is going to be Matt Ryan. Tennessee will come in behind the Colts. Vrabel's there. He's worth some wins, but, other than that, well, they're going to be good enough to stay ahead of the Texans, who are just trying to find themselves 4 weeks into the season, and luckily to get a tie in that first week.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And for me, obviously, I think, we're going to put Houston out at the bottom. They just don't have the talent there quite yet. Maybe in a couple of seasons, but not right now. For third, man, it's kind of tough because, we got Jacksonville's been off to a hot start, but can they maintain it? I'm not sure. I'm going to put Jacksonville at 3, but I think they're going to be a high 3, though. I think that I don't know if we're going to see that sustain the rest of the year, but I think they are off to a great start. For number 2, I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans. Like you said, that you convinced me on Vrabel, man. I just don't know. Like you say, there's just been moments where he's been outcoached. And also, I'm not a huge fan of Henry coming out the gate so slow. And I'm going to put the Colts at 1 just because, obviously, Matt Ryan, we all love Matt Ryan here in Atlanta where we film. But if you give him time to protect him, he can make magic happen, right? Don't matter how old he is. He can still throw the ball far, far away. I think Taylor's going to get, the cobwebs shaken out. And I think the young receiving core can really progress. I think Pittman's going to make a big jump at the end of the year. So that's my final predictions there for these AFC South in 2022. It's going to be fun to see, Mark, how this shakes out. We're 4 weeks in. We still got a lot left to go, and it's going to be a lot more weeks watching these teams play.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. And you're right. With Matt Ryan probably being one of the best quarterbacks in Atlanta Falcons history.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go back to Barkowski and all those guys. Norm Van Brocklin, unbelievable. But, man, yeah, Matt Ryan, a legacy in the ATL, carrying on Indianapolis. We'll find out what they can do, and maybe they'll surprise us in the playoffs.
It remains to be seen. Well, hey, if you guys enjoy the video of the podcast, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Like I said, we go live each and every single week, Facebook, YouTube. Check out our podcast every single day, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iTunes, wherever it is you enjoy listening to podcasts. Also, thanks to the Believe Podcast Network for all the hard work they do in helping give us a platform for our show. Let's get to my co-host, Madman Mark Mancini. It's always a pleasure having you come on each and every single week, talking some football with me. It's a great time. We love to have you on, and it's a pleasure. I've been your host today, Logan Landers. Have a great day, everyone.